I'm Krista McManus. I'm the Digital Accessibility Technical Analyst. I work in the IT department in web services. And my interest in accessibility, a couple years ago I retrained for web development, and I wandered into a class on accessibility, and my mind was just blown away by what developing with accessibility in mind can do for your websites, but all your other things. It's like just this magic gem that does so much, asks so little of us, and does so much. So I want to share that with you today. That's me. And how do closed captions and transcripts help with accessibility? The original purpose of closed caption was to provide accommodations for people with hearing disabilities. More than 50 million people in the U.S. are deaf or hard of hearing, and transcripts and closed captioning are an effective solution for audio-video content. But here's the kicker. 80% of people who use caption don't have any hearing or disability issues. That's really, really significant. So a lot of people are using closed captions in a lot of ways. And so you're not just reaching that one segment, you're getting everything in between. Somebody who's in the library and they don't have their headphones with them, somebody whose English is a second language and it helps them to boost their understanding. One of this comes from the BBC. One of the most watched captioned shows is Dalton Abbey, because of the heavy accent in the United States is Dalton Abbey. So it helps with accents and understanding and comprehension, but it also helps to really understand what the creator was trying to get across. I watch a lot of closed captioning, and I love the Twilight Zone, the captioning. I know that they took it probably from the scripts, and it has the director's notes. So if there's a sound and they call out a sound like screen door slamming and stuff, you know that that was an intended sound and that it had purpose in the script. So it's really kind of cool. It adds another dimension. So you guys probably all know this. The difference between transcripts and closed captions, both are the speech and sound taken from the audio and made into words, sometimes with timing. Closed captions are set to the timing and are viewed with the video. So I have a sample here, and wish me luck. I'm going to switch computers. Yes, okay. So let me play this video for you. Play it. Sure have caption on. Okay.
We grew up interacting with the physical objects around us, and there are enormous number of them that we everyday use. Unlike our most computing devices, these objects are much more fun to use with. When you talk about objects, one another thing automatically comes attached to that thing, and that is gestures, how we manipulate these objects, how we use this object in everyday life. We use gestures not only to interact with these objects, but with also...
So do you see, this does a good job of, TED Talks are excellent. I actually came to this because someone who was helping me with my writing skills and spelling said, start watching TED Talks and reading the transcripts, especially in an area of the subject you're interested in. It will really help you learn the vocabulary and spelling, and it's just a great learning tool. So if you can put the whole transcripts in, that's really nice. I mean, this is obviously way over the top, great, wonderful production value, but every little bit helps. And so they kind of made the mistake of they've got some of their image over the area, but it's not perfect. But it really helps understand what he's saying, and he has a very, very heavy accent. So it goes both ways. Yes?
Does it meet all accessibility standards if you just put in subtitles and don't include the transcripts?
Yes, as long as the subtitles are pretty much accurate. And we'll get into that later. Yes? And your question?
I was just going to say that's a similar service that we use with Kaltura.
Oh, it does this?
Well, it's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Titles. Yeah. 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 And we're looking at this inside of TED Talks, website, and they have it set up. So sometimes, depending on what browser you're in or what you're using, some things will allow you to move the captions around. Some like Vimeo sometimes allows more user control. So it really depends. But they almost always do this thing where it's kind of black on white, so kind of gives a fighting chance of seeing it over various stuff. So you don't have to do this, but if you have the transcripts and you can put it in, and the other thing is, transcripts are really nice because they can be copied and pasted. So if somebody wants to quote something or get the name and stuff, someone being able to, even use this for note taking and stuff is great. So, but that's, kind of above and beyond. But I just wanted to share that example of what those things, the difference of those things. Okay, so very important, video captions best practices. Plan. Your documents, your scripts, your keywords, especially acronyms, names, etc. Keep all those references. If someone used a speech, try to get copies of those notes, or preferably the digital file. Keep all those things. A lot of times in your production, you have some kind of notes or scripts or know all the names. Have all those written out in front of you when you're working on it. Is super helpful to be able to get correct spelling on names or keywords. Production. Use the best possible sound equipment. Control environmental noise. Thank you for the jackhammer stop. And post. Use quality caption and check work every word. So there's a lot of captioning services that will offer 89, 90% accuracy and money back guarantee. Well, getting your $120 back is not going to help you if you delivered the wrong message and some student or someone was left out because of this. So yes, and think about it, 98% accuracy, there's a lot of words. We use a lot of and, ums, ifs, or buts, and those all count. So when they're counting their accuracy, they're only saying, oh, well, we missed this one out of all these words, but 1 in 100, 2 in 100 words can completely change your message. So always check your work. And we'll talk about some other services later. Okay. So 3 ways of adding closed caption to it. This is just a general idea. It works in different places, but I just want to let this class know kind of the basics. So you can upload a file. You can watch the video, transcribe, and auto-sync or automate, which I call magic. So this is an example of inside YouTube. You can, it'll give you a choice to upload a transcript or use their automatic. So I'm just going to go over those. So upload your transcript. If you've got it, if somebody gave a speech and it's really pretty accurate, you can upload that, and then you actually YouTube will set the timing, and you can adjust it if you need to. I'll show an example of this in the one I produced, but sometimes somebody's giving a speech and they miss a couple words, but the sentence doesn't make sense. So you can put those in and bracket them. So it's like, yeah, they didn't actually say this, but this is the sentence, and that's perfectly reasonable and helps with comprehension. Or you can transcribe. It's actually, if you're a fast typist, it's not horrible. I can do it, and I'm a terrible, I'm not good at accuracy or speed. But listening to stuff, you can kind of get a rhythm, and if that's what you have to do, you can do that. If the sound quality is so bad that the machine can't translate it, you can transcribe, and I've done it. It's really not as bad as it sounds. Anybody? Right. No, it doesn't. It's not a substitute. But if that's all, sometimes people the video I created for you, I created at home with my cat on my iPhone. It is high quality production values, you will see. And then you can see what I had to do to correct it. But yes, you always want to do the best you can with your equipment. So we've already, this is a digital accessibility website, and it's got a lot of information and some examples. So I'm going to play this for you. Hopefully, oh, you can't see what I'm seeing. Let's try that. There you go. So this is the digital accessibility website, and there is a guide section which has information on various things. So let me just show you the difference.
I am Jen Mannix from Arts and Events, and I am CLS. I'm Jen Mannix. I'm from Arts and Events, and I am Campus Life Services.
Now, obviously, she said it out, you know, but the difference in the audio, the difference was they were using a video recording with the mic on the recording equipment the first time, and then they switched to a lapel mic. So just the difference in that, knowing like that's a big echoey room and understanding your equipment, but just even not even inexpensive, but usually if you can get a separate mic, it's usually a little better, and you have to kind of experiment, but that makes a big difference. You could really hear the difference. And so the difference in that level means for the automatic transcripts, they're going to be so much more accurate. Not only is it a more pleasant listening experience, it makes for a much more accurate translation. There you go. Okay. So I prepared a little demo of closed captioning, and this was done with ScreenFlow, which is just it captures what's on my computer, and I was speaking, so it's just the mic in my head. So the quality of that is not what I'm talking about, but I do a demo of creating a video for YouTube. So they're not going to allow me to show both of these at the same time for recording. So just for reference, I want you to see this file. This is, just so it's bigger so you could kind of see the difference. This is the final corrected version, and this is what YouTube brought in. So you could see pour, P-O-U-R, I corrected to this and this. So I was going to try to do them both side by side so you could see what I was correcting to, but I can't get them both up here and get the recording at the same time. So I'm going to move over to the laptop. In-room computer. Oh. Sorry. Let me start from the beginning. I jumped ahead. Okay, here we go. In YouTube, in your video manager, you can upload your video. I've uploaded this one for us to work on. So go to the Edit, in Edit, the drop-down menu, Subtitles, and Closed Captioning. If you see this, it means it's completed the transition from spoken word into closed captions, but it's just the automatic version. If you don't see this button, you might have to wait a little longer. Go ahead and go in here to start. And here are the captions. You want to edit them. So choose Edit. It's okay to overwrite because they start out as pretty bad. I recommend that you download your file at this point so you have a reference. And what that gives you is a file that won't open unless you choose something to open it in. Any text editor will do. So this is what you get. once you finish correcting this, you can download it again, and that could become your transcripts if you really need, if you want your transcripts. That's kind of like an easier way to do it. This is, caveat, YouTube likes to make a liar out of me. Whatever I say it's going to do, the next day it changes how it does it. So this is as of Sunday how it worked. And I promise you, when you look at it, it will be different. And that's just because YouTube hates me. But I say, oh, it doesn't save as it goes. And then you'll see in this video, it's like saving, saving, saving. So it likes to make a liar of me. So this is just general concept, okay? Your mileage may vary.
The timeline. So if it helps you, you can download that and work on that version and then move into the editor. This is a short file, so I'm going to go ahead and just edit this in place. So I see it didn't catch my acronym, so I'm going to go in here and correct this. Write the word that's missing. And the acronym with bullets, periods. I have my notes with me, so I know that this is a title, and it's missing a P for some reason. And I had colons here, and that helps readability, and this was a sentence. So I'm going to go ahead and make it look like a sentence. Senses is the wrong senses, so I'm going to correct that.
Not a fast typist.
The wrong hour should be R. And adding commas help. And periods where needed, capitalization.
So I'm looking at my notes, so that's really helps that I have my notes right in front of me. I know exactly what I was trying to say.
I see I made a mistake here. I actually am missing a few words, so I'm going to go ahead and put those back in. So it should read, some of your users may have. Okay, and since I didn't actually say that, I'm going to be honest here and bracket that. So it's not confusing to people who are reading and listening to it and reading the captions.
So it's actually a really good interface. You can go in and type, you can pause, you can watch it while you're doing it.
Okay, again, period helps. This is the next principle. I'm going to capitalize it, give it its colon to help it stand out.
This is an MP4. Does YouTube include the closed captioning with that video file? Do you know?
I don't know. I know that in some of my notes, somebody was saying, oh, well, what do you do when somebody else has done a video for you nicely? They're saying like, okay, download it, put it into YouTube, then add your captions. So I know Vimeo has different services, and depending on where you host it, I can't say for sure that you can download, but there's ways to get around it. And that's the other big caveat is to do this in YouTube, you have to be the owner of this to get these privileges. So if somebody's like, oh, we're doing all your hosting, and then you don't have access, that's kind of the problem, is you want to get a hosting or a system that will allow you this level, some level of correction, because it's always going to be necessary. Even if you have the clearest speaking person, with reading completely from a script, and it can get really messed up. And when it gets messed up, you're not treating people equally. People who are absolutely dependent on the closed captioning are getting a different message, and that's not being equal. So this is just more about principle, not basically. But this is how YouTube does it different. So I'm just typing slowly because I'm a very slow typist. But it's an eye-opener to know, you can do this. It's really not hideous. You know, this is a 1-minute video, and I made a lot of mistakes. Like I said,
I found I missed a few words, so errors on forms. So again, I'm going to use the brackets.
But if I hadn't had my notes in front of me, this would be a really difficult process.
Capitalize my next principle, put in a colon, capitalize my sentence, commas, again just making sentences.
And the automatic captioning won't make the sentences for you. So making these into sentences really helps.
My sentences, some typos, make content. And I have my script in front of me, so I know that I had it written this.
So, you know, things like putting in parentheses, that was in my speech, but it's hard to.
And I know I was excited, so I'm going to give this a little more emphasis. Oops.
See, now you want to see this, don't you?
It's one of those style things you have liberty to express. Okay. At any time, you can go in and listen to this. I did it without listening to it. I've heard it 100 times. So you can go back to any point and check in this view. But once you're comfortable with it, you can go back in and make corrections later. So if you're not happy, you can go back in and make more corrections. I'm going to go ahead and, what you would do is go ahead and publish this. I'm not going to because I use this as my teaching copy. So I will show you the final version. Thank you.
Whoa, I'm sorry, what? Where would you upload it? I will show you. We'll watch the video and then I can show you that. Which one's the final port? You're all dying to see this. POUR. P-O-U-R, principles. Perceivable. The three main senses of perception are sight, sound, and touch. Difficulties with one or more of these senses make them... Now see how that helped? Like, I missed those words, but putting it in brackets, it's not confusing. You're like, oh, those were missed words. So, you know, this is a nicer experience than just, you know, a really bad video. So it can make your videos better, I think. Reliant on assistive technology to browse your website. Operable. The main issue for making your website operable are ensuring good keyboard-only navigation, avoiding setting time limits for your users, and helping them out if they make errors. Understandable. Your website must use clear terms, have simple instructions, and explain complex issues. Be clear and consistent. Robust. Make content fully accessible by third-party technologies like web browsers, screen readers, by adhering to recognizable standards. Thank you. Okay, so under the worst of circumstances, bad typist, everything else, it's a much better product for having the closed captions than just the video. And then also that leads in, if you have captions and you need to put it into other languages, that's, you know, definitely a huge step in that direction. So that's another bonus. It helps with search engine optimization that Google will rank things higher with captioning, and it can search some of the keywords. So if you're having a service do it and you're using like a technical term or something special, and it can put in some weird things, then you're not getting credit for that word. It's not really searchable by those special words. And in UCSF, we use a lot of very particular words and terms, and being able to have someone be able to find that video because of that term just really boosts its accessibility by that people can find it. So that really helps. So that's kind of one extreme. There's things in between. But if you just understand those things, and I will go into Video Manager and just show you where those other things are. Poor. Yeah, I told you I've heard it 100 times. No, sorry. Going to edit. And so in edit, so this was the automatic translation. These are some different translations I did. But if you click this button, that one, oh, okay, I was wrong. Where I was in the editing, I don't know if you can see it. Oh, not that one. I believe you'll see it. This download, upload, can you see that? Then you can upload a file. So
Download your file at this point?
okay, so it's, and I promise you, it will change tomorrow. If I tell you where a button lives, it will change tomorrow. But that's a basic concept, is that in different places, it will give you a place to upload a file or things. So there's a lot of demos on how YouTube things work, but if you understand those principles and what you're looking for. Because I've done it where I took this, corrected it, downloaded it, and then threw it back up, and it did a really good job of doing the timing. So you can kind of play with it. Like, I didn't go in and correct, like you saw at some points, I had 3 lines and stuff. So the more you want to finesse it, the more you can. There's lots of editing tools in there. I cleaned up. This was shot, at night in my apartment with my cat and my cell phone. And, I was able to edit it down in YouTube and enhance the color and things like that. So there's a lot of nice little tools if you're just trying to do a quick video. So, but for captioning, it's pretty much free. So that's kind of the basics. So any questions? For that?
It asks you, YouTube asks you to edit subtitles and closed captioning. But treats those 2 things as they're the same thing. Am I right? Like it's not differentiating
Between subtitles and closed captioning? Yeah. The difference between closed captioning and subtitles is closed captioning you turn off and on, and usually when they say subtitles, people have embedded them in. It's visually in. It's preferable to use closed captioning, so if you have to change like language or something changes, it's changeable. A lot of times when you embed those subtitles in, then there's no controls over turning them off and on or making them, some people need to make them different colors and things like that. So it loses a lot of flexibility when they're sort of, when they're subtitles that are placed in, but that's kind of like the old way that you could graphically go in and put subtitles, yeah.
There's also a difference where closed captioning is all auditory cues and subtitles is just speech.
Okay, yeah. 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 I've tried really hard to find a nice set of guidelines, and it depends on who you ask, how you, where you use quotations or brackets or this. The best way to learn it is to watch it. like TED Talks does a pretty good job. Like I said, Twilight Zone does a really good job of getting the, so you can learn the kind of the style of sounds if you want to put that in. It may not be applicable to what you're doing. Some people use all caps, some people use upper and lowercase, just depends on who you ask. There's a few places that have style guides, but their style guides are pretty specific to what they're doing. There's certain standards for television that's not necessary for everything. So right now, it's pretty much not solidified. I think eventually the UC system someone will write a style guide and just like a suggestion, this is how we do it. If we use brackets, use quotes, and you're really limited to just really basic strokes. You can't bold things, so you have to kind of not be inventive, but really be consistent. Like some people will use the little bracket, caret bracket, when they're switching voices, so they don't have to say the other person's name. So just the best way to learn it is just to watch videos. You'll pick it up really fast. Or choose a company that's doing your captioning. Watch how they do it and say, oh yeah, that makes sense for our our needs. So, and when you're doing the editing, or I think I was doing I was doing transcribing here. I was in the transcribing. This is another video that I made. And so you have keyboard shortcuts, so you could go back 5 seconds, and you can get good. It's really a pretty easy interface. So if you had to do it, you can get through it. It's not horrible. So it's better than not having captions. So it has a pretty good interface. Like I said, you could just slide the bar back. It shows you bit by bit. But you can learn these pretty fast if you're having to type in your own.
And it looks like you can pull that list up from someplace.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, look. Yeah, I'm too short. This is my pointer. Yeah, right here.
Yep.
Keyboard shortcuts. Yeah, and it will change tomorrow. Tomorrow it's going to be over here. And but just the basic ideas. Look around. It has a lot of information, but the interface may change, and depending on whether you're using a different service, they might have sort of a different layout and a different way things work. But basically, this is kind of what you're aiming for. So, okay. I put this in the slide deck, so when you get the slide deck, you have the steps I did. We don't need to go, but basically, those are the steps I did. I've just put it in the slide deck so you can have it. And then, like I said, I tried really hard to find an official style of captioning. So these are just kind of some basic guidelines, and there's nothing that I've seen that's really a recognized standard for everybody. But these are kind of some basically accepted. Caption appear on screens long enough to be read. It's preferable to limit on-time screen captions to no more than 2 lines, but you can see like sometimes it's 3. It just depends. You have to use your judgment. Captions are synchronized with the spoken word. Speakers should be identified when more than one person is on screen or whether the speaker is not visible. Punctuation is used to clarify meaning. Spelling is correct throughout the production. That's a really hard one. Sound effects written when they add to understanding. If they don't, you don't have to put them in. Use of slang and accents is preserved and identified. Start watching with captioning. You will pick up the style. You'll get a sense of, ooh, I don't like, just like reading. Like the more you read, you learn about writing. The more you watch this, you'll get a sense of, oh, that's graceful. That's not so graceful. So I'd like to switch back over one more time and show you. This was produced by Documents and Media, and it's a screen reader demo. And there are 2 voices in this, and so there's a little back and forth. But one of the voices is the voice of the computer. So it's kind of an interesting. There's different rules for if it's an off-screen person and different things. But so I'd like you to watch this with the captions. It's 5 minutes to get a sense of that. Sorry, let me start at the beginning for you.
This is Mark Sutton from the University of California, San Francisco's IT Web Services Department. Here today with a brief tour of screen reading technology. I'm a blind person who has been using screen readers, braille writers, scanning equipment, other adaptive technologies since my childhood. What a screen reader does is, for example, I'm going to start to read this page.
Navigation 1. Link, University of California, San Francisco. Link, about UCSF. Link, search UCSF.
And what I will now do is slow down the speech rate.
Rate 80%, 75%, 70%, 65%, 60%.
So the timing is a little off on this. This probably should have been in the first one. So I'm just kind of saying what the point was, that a computer was reading really fast. I wasn't going to try to get all that transcribed, but so I'm using sort of different, so for voice, and then that really should have been on the one before, but it's not perfect. But it kind of gives you a sense of what's important in that information.
50%, 55%, 50%, 45%, 40%. Link, UCSF Medical Center.
So as I was about to say, a screen reader converts what's on a computer screen into information that can be displayed through synthetic speech or braille output. And it does that by allowing you to use a computer instead of a mouse, a computer keyboard instead of a mouse. You can also use a braille display as an input device.
End of navigation.
And what it does is it cleverly determines what's on the screen and presents you that information in a way that would allow for efficient navigation of these pages. So for example, I could just keep reading.
Banner 3 items. Visited, link, image, home.
Line by line, and we could be here all day. Or I could jump to the first heading on the page.
So what I did was I chose to just use call out for computer when it was a computer and the dash for Mark. So, your eyes kind of do get used to it, and this is just the style I chose. It's not completely synced up, but it kind of helps.
Heading level 2, search for heading level 2, you are here. Heading level 1, make videos accessible.
So as I'm moving down through the page, I can look for the category that interests me. And I'm just using commands built into the screen reader. So that's all a pretty simple description of what a screen reader is all about. Now I'm going to go over and show a few examples of how that can fall apart. So I have a couple graphics on this page.
Mark Sutton hands on a MacBook Pro image.
So the first one is well described and uses an alt tag.
You are currently on it.
To describe what that graphic is all about. Now we go to the next graphic.
Reader 042116.jpg.
Much less useful. So it's important to use those elements. It's also true for tables. So I'm going to move to a table.
FDA approved medications. Table, 3 columns, 5 rows. FDA approved medications.
So the table is pretty self-explanatory, and I'm going to move into the table.
Medicine. Approved. Column 2 of 3.
And then if I go down into the table.
Medicine. Tolbutamide.
And as I move across.
Approved. 1975. Column 2 of 3.
We're getting the labels for the column headers and row headers. So it's important when programming tables, forms, and other elements on the web pages to use the proper HTML codes. I'll go to the
table 3 columns.
Second table on the page.
Medicine. Row 2 of 5 tolbutamide.
And as I'm in the table, I move across it.
Row. November 1995.
I get a date, but I don't know what that date is associated with. So it's important, as I was saying, to include proper coding tags for all these elements. These are just a few highlights of a screen reader's capabilities and some of the ways in which the experience can fall short for a blind user. The life of students, faculty, staff, and visitors is largely conducted on the internet nowadays. Screen reading technologies can make many of these interactions work more smoothly. When developers pay attention to certain coding standards, blind persons are able to participate in digital communication, being able to do such things as understand calendars and schedules, enroll in or teach classes, conduct research, and many more essential activities that are conducted electronically. If developers of web pages and applications fail to take into account these design considerations, many people will be left out, unable to use these tools of daily life that are now taken for granted by most of us. The university provides a gateway to many key aspects of social participation. It's imperative that access to university offerings is not jeopardized. For more information, go to digitalaccess.ucsf.edu. Thank you.
So, it's a funny story. Mark wrote his own speech at the end, and so I, going through this, like, okay, I need your speech, and he gives it to me. It's in Braille. He was under the desk. I don't know. Yeah, he was under the desk reading his notes. I was like, okay, could I have a digital file? So, even though I had a lot of control here, there's things I could affect, like I knew that I wanted to have a computer's voice, I wanted to have his voice, so I kind of rehearsed it with him to try not to talk over top of it too much. So when you know what your end goal is, you can have a little more input into this setup. So, but the timing was really off. I'd never noticed that, and I've watched it quite a few times. So, but that's that's the experience. If you are trying to watch it with the caption and it's off, it's a little bit off. It's locked. Yeah. So that's truly what everybody's seeing. So yeah, but it was just one of those. I was so excited to have captioning. I just didn't even care. So sure. From birth. You can hear the video. Not for a blind person. There is a movement to get things described, and a lot of people are doing that. Like it's crowdsourced. They'll you just volunteer and you read over and describe. It's kind of fun, actually. You read over and describe a scene, and some of the Hitchcock movies, they've done that. And so it's really kind of cool to watch and see it describe, someone else describing the scene. So it's pretty cool. But pretty much, like I said earlier, the closed captioning was developed for people with hearing problems, but it's used so much more. So that's why the the timing of it is a little more important, and like bracketing when you're adding words that weren't there. But you want to create this equal experience, that the information you're giving to one group is the same information you're giving to another. Not one group gets all the information and one gets gobbledygook. So elements of okay, so we went over this, right? We go over this? Okay, we'll go over this. Elements of quality caption: accurate, errorless captioning of the goal, consistent, that develop a style and be uniform in it. Clear, complete textual representation of the audio, including speaker identifier. Readability, display with enough time to be read completely, synchronized with the audio. Like that last one was a little off, but it still had pretty accurate captioning, so it's above average. And they're not obscured by the visual content. So that's why a lot of times things have that black, dual color outline. And equal is the most important part, that the message you're delivering is equal. So even YouTube has told, it was a online reporting thing, it fully admits that automatic subtitles or closed captioning, different countries use the word subtitles, so sometimes they always put things, for the deaf and hard of hearing users are by no means good enough yet. So I want to show you what I'm talking about.
One of the things I have been trying to do about 2 years ago was, get better closed captioning on YouTube. Because there's the automatic closed captioning, but it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever from my experience about 99% of the time. I mean, I can look up a video about concealers, and somehow the automatic closed captioning will be talking about zebras. It's like, I see what you're doing, but I don't know what you're saying.
So that gives me an 85% life chance of getting breast cancer. I am not my boobs. I am so much more than my boobs.
Yeah, it's a little bit frustrating because we've been trying to do this for years. We've also, contacted YouTube themselves and we're going, hey, can you fix this closed captioning thing? And that didn't work. If they would at least acknowledge that, okay, we realize that this automatic closed captioning thing isn't working the way that it should, so we will try to fix it. Closed caption your videos, just do it. Should I turn my camera off now? Yeah, okay.
Okay. So you kind of get her point. It's great that there is automatic, but people just kind of throw the job into somebody else's lap and then don't follow through, and that's the experience you get too often, and it is not an equal experience. It's great to have the closed captioning, but unless you really deliver the whole message, you really haven't delivered the message. So these are two services, VerbaLink and SpeechPad. I know someone in UCSF uses VerbaLink in the pharmacy department. They produce a lot of videos, and they have a workflow system where VerbaLink sends them the transcripts with underline of where they think the problems are, and then they can go in and correct it, and that's a very, very accurate system. So if you can develop a relationship with your vendor, you can use a vendor, but as long as you have that step where there is some way to go in and verify the words and make some corrections. A lot of people use services. Some very well-funded places, departments use services that are $1 per minute. And if something goes wrong, they'll give you back your buck a minute, but they're not guaranteeing that the message is going to be the same. They're saying that they'll have a 98% accuracy, but there are so many words in a minute. 100 words can go by very quickly, and the ums and ahs and ahs and buts and these and those all count as words. You just need to get 1 or 2 words wrong per 100, and it's really changed the meaning of the message. So I'm working with our purchasing department and trying to gather information of what services people are using now currently, and try to maybe try to pull some resources together and get some reduced rates, because I think that's really, together using our buying power. I've talked to some places and I'm just astonished that they just get off-the-shelf rates, and one, we should get an educational discount. But if we all work together and try to put forth the importance of that extra level of correction, that we need services that allow us to do that easily, and that it needs to be something that can be dispersed among the departments, then I think it'll make a big difference. But so I'd love to get your guys' input on that. And then here's a shameless plug for HTML5. I love HTML5. It's very, very accessible. And so HTML5 natively supports video without the need for third-party plugins. So it's the closest thing to a universal online video you can get. So adding video is as simple as adding an image. And so anyway, that's my shameless plug. So if ever the subject of HTML5 comes up, just say, yay. So anyway, please, HTML5. And if you see somebody, friends don't let friends use Flash. This is the new. Because closed captioning can fail. That you see students, colleagues, sexy, I'm proud. This guy didn't say that, and I'm sure he'd be really embarrassed to know that that's what he's saying to all the deaf students he was talking to. And this one, prescription opiate epidemics, crisis and opportunity. Yeah, like that's not what they said there. There was some music playing in the background, and that's what came up with automatic captioning. Yeah, yeah. And then you can be really creative. Like at the end when I put in the capitals and exclamation points, it says like, no, makes the I don't know sound. You know, I don't know. Like you can almost hear that even without, you know. And you could be really creative. Sobbing mathematics. I've got to find this episode. I just really want to see that. And I'm sure he's like going 28 to pi and 8, you know. And then, oh, sad beep. So, Earl Gray, my gray cat, and I thank you very much for coming and sharing this information. And please, so I would like to hear what you guys' experience has been with closed captioning, what's working for you, what's not. Have you found any vendors that are better than others? How would you like it to be? What is the experience you need to have to make it work?
Well, I mean, for me, it's going to be all me. So it has to, you know, there will be no transcription service. You know, so I have to really plan. I think that's the biggest thing is from the start. Unfortunately, sometimes I'm handed things like webinars that sound really bad, and it's kind of like, okay, it's unintelligible in a lot of places, and that's just where I have to play it back and play it back again and again and again until I get as close as I possibly can. And
yeah,
you know, hoping
that's really hard.
You know, and like you said, in brackets, you know, when things are unintelligible, or I think this is what they're saying, you know, kind of thing. But luckily, we start most projects from scratch, so everything is planned out pretty well.
Yeah, and if you could let people know ahead of time, like, oh, if they have notes or please, you know, supply all the names and keywords. So when you're sitting there, did he say dialectable? Yeah. You know, those things. It's very, very helpful. So you can push back a little bit and kind of, you know, share the load that, you know, when you give me this, you know, I also really need this, and maybe you were not going to get the first, but if you keep asking, and then also, if there's any way, do you have a way that you can pass the information to them for checking? Or I know a lot of times people just don't even
honestly,
look at them.
I have a lot of people who are actually excited by the fact they can write their own script for, you know, because I do a lot of voiceovers for our training materials, so they'll say, you know, let me just write the script.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that happens, it's very easy because I've got it all written and I make whatever changes I need to based on, you know, good grammar or whatever else I need to do, and then I send it back for their approval, and when they say, you know, I just load that in, and everything flows seamlessly when I'm creating training materials in Captivate, because it follows slide by slide, and then I can just drag the timing bars and move it around once I put my final voiceover in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's very simple to do.
Mm-hmm.
Where it gets difficult is you can only import slide notes one time in Captivate, and that's it. If they ever change in the original PowerPoint file, they never come back over. So you have to manually overwrite the closed caption.
Yeah.
If you decide to change a slide completely for whatever audio you're changing, you have to update it. So that's the only caveat. But we try to plan really big time up front so that that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm interested in maybe even, I have Premiere Pro, but I've never delved into closed captioning.
Yeah, there's all kinds of different programs depending on your budget. This is like totally free, but there are other programs. But I just wanted to kind of show the basics of how it worked, and then you choose a different.
I had no idea you could do that with YouTube. I knew they had the automatic thing, but I never went in and tried to actually edit it. So
2 months ago, I didn't know either.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And look at me now. Look at us now. We're superstars. Yeah, so you just have to start somewhere and work with all the different parties. Like, you know, sometimes we're handed software or WebEx or, you know, whatever the thing. We have to push back a little and say, oh, well, I have these mandates I need to make, and to meet that, you know, the quality of your audio is really important. You know, what equipment are you using? And, you know, I'm really trying to let people know that all these things matter. I like this building a lot. The audio is really pretty good. And I did look at my first video and, you know, tried running through. It's like, oh, it's not bad. I can go in and correct that. So the quality of the audio just makes a huge difference. So really support people, you know, getting a little better equipment, you know, better infrastructure, using the better rooms. There is a recording room in the Parnassus Library. I don't know, it's a little tiny room, but just having the better mic makes a huge difference.